Howdy there, YouTube. How's everything going? Thanks for all the love I've been getting. I saw like a lot of cool videos. One of the things I wanted to hook up for the MCPs was Google Drive, which is actually relatively straightforward, but I did something really stupid, which you should never do, and I tried to hook up more Google services. So I tried to hook up Gmail and Google Drive and kind of limit things. And I was making good progress, but then, and I hope you can see this, let me zoom in a lot. I ran into a bunch of issues with using MCP for everything. So my goal was to try to use like Claude and just talk to Claude and have it, help me out with all this different stuff, which is fine. It's very similar to like using Cursor, but I thought it could be good to use Claude for everything, which was fine. I was able to like hit lots of like, update things in GitHub, update the scripts I was working on. But then I ran into a problem with the authentication stuff for Gmail. And part of the issue was that it wasn't reading the credentials properly. And then I ran into a bigger issue, which was, um, hang on, where is it? Sending, yeah, I guess it's in this chat, the same chat chain with Claude. But I ran into an issue where I just kept hitting an error with Claude where it would say, um, what was the exact message? It was more or less like Claude was running out of space. Like it was, I guess the context window was getting too big for it, and then it couldn't store the whole file in its context window. And it kept saying like, "Oh, Claude's ran out of length. Claude's ran out, maybe start a new chat. Maybe start a new chat." And I was like, "Okay, but then I'm going to lose all the context of this thing," which was annoying. So then I kept working at it and I got further. The latest thing that I was trying to do was because the code was getting too big, I said, all right, well, instead of like, just giving me the full code in one file, which it kept failing to do, it failed to write the full file, which was only a few hundred lines of code. So I don't know, I guess your write tokens get choked off. Maybe it was just the fact that it was putting in the full context and then it had to put in the right tokens, but it was hitting its length limit. And then I said, okay, well, you can write files, so just write a bunch of chunks of the file. And then I was going to stitch it together later. But then as it was trying to do that, which is like relatively simple, and I was like, okay, just write all the chunks of this code, then it says message limit reached for Claude 3.5 Sonnet until 11 p.m. So essentially it's like you spent your allowance, Daniel. Now you need to save up again before you can do anything. So this is actually pretty, um, I don't want to say stupid, but this is pretty frustrating because I think I've never ran into this before. Using Cursor, I've never had any issues with, writing a bunch of files or anything like that. So anyway, minor setback, but normally I was doing like an MCP a day and I was gonna have Google Drive and gonna have email, which would have been cool things to hook up to Claude. But given the fact that it's running into these length limits, I don't know, it's a little frustrating. It also means that, if you do hook up as many tools as possible and you're using Claude, eventually you're gonna start running into these kind of things, like these message limits and whatnot. So this is part of the reason why it's kind of frustrating to use these models. And someone actually in the chat mentioned using open source models, which I normally am not like super big on because of the speed at which you can run them. Like in terms of like getting the tokens out, it's more expensive because if you had to buy like an expensive GPU or something like that. But the other thing is, you know, usually you're fine with these big models and they have better inference speed and all this. But I don't know, I might have to rethink that now that I'm starting to hit message limits for Claude. And I'm guessing Cursor wouldn't be as bad, or you could also up your subscription to get like more access. So I think that it's really just an issue with this particular overuse of just Claude as it is, like Claude Desktop. But anyway, caution to everybody out there that's trying to overuse MCPs. Don't do what I did. Don't put a bunch of um, API stuff into one single MCP server, but also don't overuse it because then you'll just get cut off. And now I can't even use this until 11 p.m. So that sucks. But anyway, lesson learned. Hopefully, you guys don't have to learn the hard way. And now that you know that if you hook up too many things, it's kind of like the concept of like multi-agent systems. Like usually, if you hook up too many things to one agent, it's going to break because the context is too big for just one agent, and you should be splitting it up into a bunch of different agents that work for you. But I don't know. I'm still a little frustrated at this, but I think it means I just need to change how I work with it. Like essentially, context windows should eventually get super big and compute will get super big so that like all this stuff will happen very quickly. But right now in the early days of AI, it's kind of clunky and we don't have limitless tokens and limitless context windows, not yet. So we'll get that in a few years, but no reason to be inefficient now. So anyway, got a few hours of break, if not more. Probably won't even post anymore today, but in the near future, you'll get a Claude tool from me that will hook up Gmail and will also hook up Google Drive relatively painlessly. You can just run that Python script I shared before. The only problem was the auth. The auth was not working, which is like the major piece. But anyway, I'll fix that pretty quickly. It's not too bad. But you will need to create a Google Cloud provider account. Go into GCP and you have to create a project. You'll have to do some of these things because I'm not giving you my GCP credentials. But for anybody watching this, if you want to do some homework in the future, if you want to use Claude for emails or Claude for Google Drive, you're going to need to sign up for a Google Cloud account and then create a new project and then create your own authentication so that then you can access your Gmail and your Google Drive. So anyway, stay tuned, preview. Sorry, this was kind of like a failure video, but sometimes you fail. Anyway. Goodbye. Have a good day.